Hello and welcome to Clusters. Antonius Felix has reached the end of his term as governor of Judea and has been replaced by Porcius Festus. But at the beginning of Acts chapter 25 and around 60 AD, the poor man immediately has to deal with the Jewish religious council requesting that Paul be handed over to them for trial. He hasn't even been to Caesarea yet, let alone met Paul. Yet there's another deadly plot afoot as the Jewish leadership plan to kill Paul as he's being transferred to Jerusalem to save the cost of a trial. But whether Festus sees through their plot or simply goes by the book, he doesn't agree to this. Instead, he invites the Jewish leaders to accompany him to Caesarea to put their case at a second trial there. But Luke is quite dismissive of this, saying that lots of serious allegations were made against Paul, but none of them could be proved, which begs the question, why is Paul still in jail? Paul's defence, meanwhile, is simple. He denies he's done anything wrong. And Festus can't argue with that. But the newly appointed governor wants to curry favour with the Jewish hierarchy to get them on his side and avoid future problems. So he asks Paul if he's willing to go to Jerusalem to stand trial before the Sanhedrin. But Paul can see that he'd be being used as a political pawn and sees a chance to avoid a stitch-up in court and get to Rome and preach the gospel in the heart of the empire. And so he surprises everyone and appeals directly to the emperor, Nero. Now this was a right granted only to Roman citizens, a sort of final appeals court, and it takes Festus aback somewhat. He'd been expecting proper criminal charges, but instead all he gets are disagreements on points of Jewish religious stuff. And so he turns for more advice to the much more experienced King Agrippa II. Now he was the last king in the line of the Herods, having succeeded his father, also called Agrippa, about 12 years before. Later, he was king during the Jewish revolt against Rome and the subsequent destruction of the temple in 70 AD. After that, he fled to Rome, where he was welcomed with open arms. But that's some way off yet. Here he arrives with great pomp and ceremony, accompanied by a woman called Bernice, who, it turns out, is not his wife, but his sister. And yes, there were rumours about their relationship, but none have ever been substantiated. He also seems quite intrigued about this fellow Paul and asks to meet him, but sadly we'll have to wait till next week for that confrontation. But has Paul's famous preaching deserted him? Not Felix last time, Festus this time, nor Agrippa next time seem even close to being convinced of the gospel. Why do you think it is that some people become Christians while others reject the message? Anyway, you can ponder that one when you meet. Next week we'll be Trinity together, so I hope to see you there for prayer, and my goodness have we got a lot to pray about. So until then, have a great cluster.